What's up, everyone? I'm glad you're here. Today I'm going to talk about how you can be a better person. Ha! That's right, I'm getting right to the meat. Change your life by changing your respectfulness. Simple, right? That's all I need you to do. I want you to consider these things as we move through today's live session. And I want to welcome you real quick. My name is Terry. This is Alternative Influence Coaching. And you're here hopefully because you want a little bit of guidance. Maybe you want to refine either your business or your personal life. They go hand in hand. If you're a business owner, it's really hard to keep them separate. So today the topic for me is respect. I've mentioned this before in reference to previous videos. Today, though, I'm particularly fired up because I tell you, I gotta tell you a story. I've been managing people coaching people for literally 2 decades, 20 years. And I've had to let go my fair share of people. And it really almost always comes down to them saying they're going to do something and not following through. That's what you have on the board today. Do what you say you're going to do. It is the most simple way to increase the amount of respectfulness and be a better person. So nearly every person that I have let go in my lifetime is because of their lack of respect for their word or me and giving me their word. I had a wonderful young trainer who I mentored from just a wee lad, and he was such a good kid. He had his share of issues at home. Who doesn't have issues with your family? And he started struggling. Well, then he lost his girlfriend who broke up with him. He decided to medicate with alcohol, and I felt bad for him. He was young. And I cared so much that I offered him a place to crash in the basement of the gym that we had. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but in the basement of the gym, we had a little kitchenette, we had a couch, there was a bathroom with a shower. I thought, this is gonna blow over in a week. Well, 3 months later, and after multiple oversleeping through clients, which is mind-blowing when you think about your clients are upstairs. All you're gonna do is go upstairs. Just wake up on time, go upstairs. I understand the man was broken. He is a good friend of mine to this day. We actually talk regularly. And he would reflect on this as a blip in his life that actually made him a better person. Repeatedly did not do what he said he was gonna do. Could not keep his commitments, and I had to let him go. And it was a dark day. My first ever intern we had a great relationship up until that point. Circle back several years later, now he's a celebrity and a pro sports trainer. He is doing quite well for himself, has managed to start himself a little family, and I couldn't be prouder of him. We got closer after this issue. That's the hardest part, but the hardest part was having to hold him accountable for his disrespect. So there are a lot of ways to have respect for somebody. We could argue this subject for sure for days, I imagine. But if we can boil it down to its simplicity, do what you say you're going to do. Imagine how much more efficient, how much more you could get out of life by giving that one thing. It's like, I'm going to keep a commitment. I'm going to meet with you today at 1 p.m. I'm going to show up at 12:55, ready to rock and roll. If I say I'm going to hold you accountable with your eating or your physical fitness, then I better follow through and hold you accountable. You have given me that permission. I need to follow through on that commitment to you. It's the same thing in your relationships with your significant other. if you are going to stay true to them, it's going to mean you making a commitment and then following through on what you said you were going to do. Kids are no different. You want to teach your kids respect? Keep your commitments, keep your promises to your kids. Simple. That goes both ways. So those doing what you say you're going to do goes both. Oh man, you got to hear this. Works both for teaching as well as it does for discipline. And what is discipline if it's not teaching? So it's not always fluffy flowers, right? It is oftentimes very painful. So if, for instance, if you're working with an employee, you give them strict parameters on how to handle themselves on the job site, and they decide to test you, but you already laid out what the consequences would be, you be failing them to not follow through on the consequences, even if those consequences mean that you or somebody else on your team have to pick up their slack because you kicked them to the curb. You are doing that person a disservice. As a person, you're doing them a disservice. As an employee, you put the lesson ahead of the consequences. They failed to meet the lesson. Now they meet the consequences, and you may have made them a better person. You may never see them again. I only have 2 people that I have let go that I still don't have a relationship with. And that is not me bragging. That is me coming to them when I fired them and telling them that you're gone because X, Y, and Z. You were disrespectful here. You challenged and was disrespectful here, and you failed to heed the warning. And yes, it took. Sometimes I had to repeat myself several times in that meeting in order to get my point across, slightly raising my voice. But the point was made. The consequences were accepted, and now there is a better relationship. It is mind-blowing how that works, right? We've talked about failures and pain being filters for growth and strength. So if you are not willing to feel that pain, you're not going to grow as an employer, business owner, entrepreneur, and they're not going to grow as a person, right? Because in that moment, it's definitely personal. So it's nothing personal, it's just business. It's not. I don't believe that's 100% true. It is often personal and reflects on your business. It's the business problem that brought up the personal issue that makes any sense. So if you could dig deep there, you can actually really help that person move on and still develop as a human being. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. So think about that before you start hiring. What does it look like to fire? It's also a really good idea to think about hiring somebody who is different than you, but in a complementary way. So that you're not hiring your exact replica, because you and that person are going to butt heads all the time. If you are passionate and have a desire to grow and build something, well, they're going to come in with their passion and their desire to grow and build something, and it's often going to do that. So it is better to find somebody who has less in common with you, that complements what you're trying to do or complements things about your personality. So consider that when hiring. All right. Not hard, right? To keep your word. Start trying to keep your word to yourself. So self-respect is making personal commitments and following through on them. If you can make personal commitments and follow through, you're going to really start developing yourself. So whether it's personal commitments for being more disciplined in your work, I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. I'm going to take care of myself from 6 to 7:30, and by 8 a.m. I'm going to be working. I'm going to work from 8 to 10. I'm going to take a 1-hour break. Maybe I'll work out. Maybe I'll go for a walk. I don't know. Back to work at 11. I'll work from 11 to 1. I'll take a lunch break, so on and so on. Structure, discipline is respect for yourself. I don't really subscribe to the love yourself movement. I think it means more to be disciplined. There is a lot of things that are vague about loving yourself and taking care of yourself. I don't think that anybody likes the word discipline, just like they don't like the word failure. is a negative connotation that makes me feel weird, makes me feel something, and I'm trying to not ignore your feelings, but to put them over here so that we can look at things rationally with a sprinkle of feelings. Okay? So you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater here. Discipline hurts. If it doesn't hurt, you won't learn. We learn through pain. Look back at your life and think about the memories, good and bad, and what element of ouch do they have? What element of vulnerability do they have? Pain, even great love, both things rip a person open. And you become vulnerable, and that's how you learn. What happens when you become vulnerable? Right? You reduce your pride and increase your humility. What happens when you're humble? You're teachable. So then, and you're teachable, well, then you can learn respect and become self-disciplined. And when you become self-disciplined, guess what? You're taking care of yourself, which means you're loving yourself. Do you see how that works? I hope you do. I hope that you come back to this video and you think through it a little more. And I hope you maybe reach out and tell me if it affected you. You can reach out and argue with me too. I'm not afraid. Oh man, I'm going to leave you with that. That's a lot. That's some good brain food for you. Practice little bits of being respectful. It starts with you respecting yourself and learning how to be self-disciplined. Okay? We will see you soon. Thanks for being here. As always, it's Terry. Bye.